report tops your news headlines today. Harvest season paused in much of the state with some saturated fields. Wisconsin saw heavy rainstorms with over 5 inches reported in some areas. Much of the state received an additional dusting of snow last weekend. The moisture limited access to fields in many spots. Still, harvest remains far ahead of last year. Corn for grain is 40% off the field. Soybean harvest is now 85% complete. Winter wheat planted 94% finished, and that is more than 4 weeks ahead of 2019. That early harvest means farmers have time to plant cover crops. But can you also use that soil building solution for forage?
With the earlier corn silage harvesting, a number of farms were able to get a forage crop in after corn silage. So we're looking at winter rye or winter triticale in particular. Some folks I've heard are using just for a cover, but in previous years I've heard, maybe alfalfa wasn't so great, and some farms took that as an emergency forage. And so we don't want to discount that there may be that type of situation happening. But we do have folks that planted it. They know for sure that they're going to take it as a forage crop come maybe like end of May, early June. And so for folks that are new to planting something in after corn silage, one of the things that we identified through our farmer and consultant focus groups a few years ago about this was that storage was actually a pretty big obstacle, something that maybe they hadn't planned for and anticipated ahead of time. And so for any of those folks that are new to planting in, a winter rye, winter triticale storage, you want to think about that now. So there are some farms that maybe they've started strategically feeding out of, let's get this one bunker or this one silo fed out over the winter and early spring months so that by the time we're ready for that harvest that we've got room for it. So that's one thing I've heard farms will do. Other farms have maybe used existing storage, or maybe they layer in another haylage with the rye or triticale forage as well. So there's some layering, using existing storage and layering that together. Some folks have used bags, and then that gives obviously more flexibility. It's easier to get another bag than to get another silo or to get another bunker, right? So bags can afford maybe a little bit more flexibility. But the issue with our bags is that as the crop matures, the stems get pretty hollow and it packs down more like straw. And so it can become very difficult to pack. And so a bag may not be a good fit in that case. Another thing farms should be aware of is that the window for harvesting is pretty narrow for rye and triticale. Rye especially, our farmers said anecdotally they thought triticale had a little bit more forgiving harvest window, but in either case, farms have said in both crops that the quality can really get away from you very quickly, that can mature very quick towards the end of that stage there with the crop. And so you might have plans to get that harvested at a particular time, and maybe weather gets in the way and it might become more mature, more difficult to pack, higher yield than you expected. So then what do you do with that extra additional yield, and where do you store it? So having plans now while we're getting into a little bit of the quieter winter months will be important. If you're thinking about building any additional storage, obviously you want to get that in ahead of time. And here in Brown County, our farms have been harvesting rye and triticale around the very, very end of May, early June. But with weather, you never know if that's going to be a little bit earlier, a little bit later. So it's important to plan ahead of time now while you're not under crunch time and not after you've harvested it and you don't know where you're going to put it and what you're going to do with it.